All right, everyone, welcome back. So, the Calgary Flames are up next here in our 2024 reviews. And the Flames are in a little bit of a weird spot. You have a new GM come in, a new coach come in, and everyone wants to go. That was pretty much just the summary of this Flames season overall. But handling that and dealing with the new coach and new GM, I'd say Calgary did a decent job this year. They went 38, 39, and 5 for 81 points. They were 24th in the NHL. Now, like a lot of the teams that are missing the playoffs, they had their moments, but above all, it was a pretty rough season. But I would say being just below 500 speaks volume for how this team faced a lot of adversity, faced a lot of changes during the season, and they still finished out one game below 500. So, whether or not you think the Flames will be better or worse next year, you can look at this season and say that's something to be at least a little bit proud of, even though they missed the playoffs for, I think, the second straight season. They had a .494 points percentage, which is ranked 24th. They have scored 253 goals, have let in 271, and they have a minus 18 difference overall. Again, the defense and goaltending really struggled towards the end of the season, especially with, a lot of the guys leaving, like Hanifin left, Tanev left, both solid two-way defenders, Tanev more defensive, but losing those guys obviously took a toll on this team, and usually when you miss the playoffs, you have a negative goal differential as well. They were 21, 19, and 1 at home, and they were 17, 20, and 4 on the road, so overall, pretty decent, mediocre numbers there. We're starting to get into the teams now where, they weren't bad, but they were just kind of meh this season. They scored 3.09 goals for per game, which is 18th, and they let in a 3.26 goals against per game, which is 22nd. So both numbers are pretty close there. I think that the goal scoring has gone down a little bit more, and I think it shows just because this team just doesn't have that high scoring talent anymore, even though there were guys that had pretty solid years this season. They had a 17.9 power play percentage, which is ranked 26th, which you won't be surprised when you see the penalty kill. It is an 80.8, which is 9th. So they had a good penalty kill. I remember the narrative for the Flames a lot. It was similar to my Philadelphia Flyers, where they would just score shorthanded. That was a big thing. I remember it was Yegor Sharangovich, who we'll get into in a little bit, was a big factor in why that actually even happened. Their TikTok average in my power rankings was a 5.18, which is 22nd amongst all the teams in the National Hockey League. So, not terrible there, just a little bit below average in my rankings, which is about where they finished in the NHL this year. So, yeah, I think Calgary, honestly, I feel like they're in a little bit of a weird spot. I think they will be better next year, but there's a chance that they won't be. We got to see what they do in the offseason. They have a lot of old players to where they can't rebuild, but they have a lot of young players to where they don't really need to rebuild. It's strange. It's strange how this works. They have a lot of contracts they're going to be stuck with for the foreseeable future. But regardless, I think some of the guys that they have, at least right now, are doing okay. Nazem Kadri led this team in scoring this year when you remove all the guys that, played half the year and stuff. Kadri, 82 games played, 29 goals, 46 assists, 75 points. Listen, Kadri's not going to be that guy that he was in Colorado. He's not going to be that great playoff performer that he's been in previous years. But he can net you 75, 80 points a season for at least the next 2 years, I feel like. I think both the Kadri and the Huberdeau contracts are going to be absolutely terrible in, I think, 2 to 3 years. But at least right now, the Kadri contract, I think, is decent for, what he produces for the Flames. I think he will probably be another 70-point scorer next season. That's what I at least envision him to be. Yegor Sharangovich, second in scoring. As I mentioned, this guy was a short-handed king. 82 games played, 31 goals, 28 assists for 59 points. I think he had a good season. I think that given a lot of ice time he's gotten, and I think that just overall Calgary had a much shallower depth chart than the Devils did. And Sharangovich played really well. I think in hindsight, they won that trade. I remember I looked at that. I think it was around, July last year. I said that this was an absolute flop for the Flames, and they got fleeced in this trade. That's what a lot of people were saying. I was on that boat, per se. I thought Sharangovich could be a good player, but I didn't think he was going to match what Toffoli could do with the Devils. And then, obviously, Toffoli just never panned out with the Devils, and Sharon Govich had a 60-point season, so not too bad. Blake Coleman looked really impressive this year. 78 games played, 30 goals, 24 assists for 54 points. I think there isn't a whole lot of things you can be proud of this season, but Blake Coleman was one of them. Coleman looked like a solid 30-goal scorer. I can't tell you the last time Coleman scored. I remember I always look at this Calgary Flames team and say that the Blake Coleman contract was terrible. It was not great. This year, though, he made it look a little bit better. Not a bad 54-point season there. I would take that and run with it. Mackenzie Weegar, fourth in scoring, 82 games played, 20 goals, 32 assists, 52 points. He's the number one defenseman now. I think him and Rasmus Andersson are just the first pairing at this point. They're probably the two best defenders, and I think Weegar has a decent chance of being, this flame on the Flames for the next couple of years. Obviously, with his contract, I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. Even though there's the rumors there of him going to Ottawa, I don't think he leaves anytime soon. Jonathan Huberdeau, 81 games played, 12 goals, 40 assists, 52 points. Of course, Huberdeau was traded to the Flames with Weegar in that deal almost 2 years ago now, which is weird to think. Honestly, Huberdeau, that deal looks terrible, but it's a deal that was a lose-lose situation either way. You don't want to lose him, but you also don't want to sign. It's a brutal contract, and we are in I think that was year 2 of it, year 1 of it. So, yeah, we're going to have this contract here for at least the next 6-7 years. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough time for Calgary until then, probably. Andrei Kuzmenko, and again, with the Huberdeau thing, I've seen talks of them buying Huberdeau out. I can't see that happening. It's similar to Darnell Nurse, ironically an Oiler. The Flames hate the Oilers, but I just can't see them buying out Huberdeau. It's just not realistic whatsoever. Andrei Kuzmenko, 72 games played, 22 goals, 24 assists, 46 points. I thought Kuzmenko had a good year. I think that some of that is split with, I think, the Vancouver Canucks, though, but I felt like on the downward with the Flames, I thought Kuzmenko looked better. And I honestly think that Kuzmenko, there's a chance that if the Flames want to make more moves and get more assets in the draft this year and in the future, in the next couple of years, I think they have a legitimate shot to do that. Now, again, I'll get into it later, but they have 6 first-round picks in the next 3 years. So they have an advantage there when it comes to draft capital. So we'll see how they look next season, but they have a lot of future. And if they want to move out Kuzmenko, if they want to move out someone like Sharon Govich, get some return for him, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Andrew Mangiapane, 75 games played, 14 goals, 26 assists for 40 points. Again, Mangiapane's been disappointing the last couple of years. Another kind of season from him. He was looked at to be a solid player a few years ago, but I look at it now and he's probably never going to reach that. Michael Backlund, 82 games played, 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. I thought Backlund had a good enough year from a guy like him. He's older. He's the captain of this team, obviously. I think that, honestly, he's not going to be a guy that scores you a 45, 50-point season anymore. He's mostly going to be a 40-point scorer next couple of seasons. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's kind of where I see his ceiling. Rasmus Andersson, 9th in scoring, 78 games played, 9 goals, 30 assists, 39 points. I thought Andersson had a good season, too. I think there were a lot of Flames defenders that had decent seasons. And then Connor Zary, one of the young players in the rookie, 63 games played, 14 goals, 20 assists, 34 points. I thought Zary had a good year. I think Zary came up. He had a really good first month in the NHL. I remember when I was doing my rookie check-ins each month, he just shot up my rankings one month and then kind of just dilly-dallied down it after that. So I think if Zary can keep that consistency, which again, he's young, it was his rookie season, some guys struggle to do that. I think that if Zary can keep his consistency, I think he can be a good 60, 65-point scorer at the NHL level, maybe even more than that. Goaltending. So goaltending was a question this year. There were rumors that one of the 3 guys is going to get moved out. We'll see what happens this offseason, but Jacob Markstrom, 23, 23, and 2, a 2.78 and a .905. I think he played well for the standards. I think he does find his way out, though. There's a very good chance that if the Devils want to work something out with Markstrom, they could go back to that, because Markstrom obviously said, yeah, I want to go to the Devils. And he was actually upset when they didn't trade him at the trade deadline. So I would not be surprised whatsoever if they circle back on that and Markstrom ends up the Devil by the next season. But again, it wouldn't surprise me either if he's still with the team. So we'll see. Daniel Vladar. Vladar with an 8.9-2, a 3.62, and a .882. I think I've said this in videos before about the Flames that if there's a player on any of the teams that is going to get, or if there's a goalie on the Flames that's going to get moved out. Sorry, I don't know where I was going. If there's a goalie on the Flames that's going to get moved out, it's probably going to be Vladar. I thought it was going to be Markstrom a few months ago, but I think it might be Vladar now. I think he's actually... No, I think he has one more year left on his deal. I think it'd be best to try and get him out of there. So in terms of ins and outs, again, I didn't mention Dustin Wolf, but his numbers, he didn't play a ton in the NHL, so I didn't think it was worth mentioning. Ins and outs: Kuzmenko, Yermo, Brucevic, Grushnikov, Miromanov, Damiani, Okichuk, a first, second, a fourth, and a sixth were the guys that came in this year for the Flames. Again, when I do my prospect previews, when I do my prospect pool overviews this offseason, I think the Flames is going to be very interesting. I remember last year there were some guys that I talked about like Coronado, Peltier, Zeri. You know, some of those guys have graduated. I think guys like Yermo and Brucevic are going to be big-name guys in the NHL, and I think they will be very solid players. So hopefully that turns out well. And then guys who left, it's a much shorter list. Hanifin, Tanev, Lindholm, Zadorov, amongst other guys that did leave as well. So, yeah, again, as I said, a lot of the players that were on this team last year just said, I don't want to be here this coming season. Like, that's, like, you lost 3 of your top defenders, I would say. You lost your number 1 center in Elias Lindholm. So, again, the fact that this team finished where they did, I think is solid. Considering the fact they lost all those guys. So draft capital. What does the draft look like this season? They have the 9th overall pick, which it wouldn't surprise me if they select TJ Ginla or they trade up to get TJ Ginla. They have 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, no 5th, a 6th, and no 7th. So not a whole lot of capital there in the later rounds, but good capital in the first 4 rounds. I think Calgary just needs to stack up on prospects, stack up on the number 1 guys. I think if they do that, I think the future will be much better for them in the coming seasons. I think they're still, I don't think they'll be a playoff team next year. It wouldn't surprise me if they are, though, but I think that honestly they're probably going to see themselves, maybe in this little bit of a retool here the next, like, maybe 2 to 3 years, I would say. So UFAs and RFAs, unrestricted free agents, you got AJ Greer, Dennis Gilbert, and Oliver Shillington. Greer, I think they keep around. Gilbert, we'll see. And then Shillington, I wouldn't mind keeping him around either. He missed a lot of time. I think him fully back in the lineup and healthy, I think would positively affect this team. RFAs, Okichuk, and Dubé. Okichuk, I know I'm saying that wrong probably, but I think he's going to the KHL. So I don't think they're going to keep him around. I think he's probably just going to go to the KHL. And then Dubé, evolved in the allegations, I think he just goes. We're getting into the teams. I think the Devils are next. They have 2 of the guys. I think that just all of the guys from the sexual assault allegations going on currently are not going to be re-signed. I'd be very surprised if they are, but I don't think they will. So, yeah, that's your 2024 review for the Flames. I think the Flames are in a little bit of a crossroads right now. They had a solid season considering what they went through, but overall, I think they have a solid future that they can build off of, and we'll see how that develops in the next couple of seasons. So if you're a Calgary Flames fan, subscribe down below. Let me know your thoughts on this overall season. What do you expect them to do with the draft, free agency, all that good stuff. But regardless, thank you all for watching. If you enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. We are going to 3,000 subscribers, almost 250 away, which is great. But regardless, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.